Good morning. I am Brita Wallace, family and parent educator with Wallace Family Ministry. Welcome to my channel. Today we continue on our Love Dare journey as we go on this challenge together of learning really what it means to love in action and how to love our spouse as well. I also have a Love Dare for parents going on simultaneously with this Love Dare. So if you haven't gotten a chance to check that out yet, make sure you do. Today we are starting day 11. We have gotten through more than a quarter of our Love Dare. Today we go into that second quarter of our Love Dare challenges. So that should really make you feel so good about yourself if you've been participating, and hopefully you're starting to see some fruit, some more warmth from your spouse. If not, and you're doing the dares, and maybe there was just something going on there that makes your spouse feel a little weary right now, if this is not if none of this is normal behavior, or there's some discord or something going on there. So just give it time, be patient. That's one of our dares, right? Is we have to be patient with our spouses. We have to be patient in life as well. And sometimes we have to put in the work for us to see the fruit. So we're going to hop right in. We always start with a verse, right? So husbands ought to love their own wives as their own bodies. Ephesians 5:28. All right, so there are two scenarios that Stephen and Alex Kendrick give that I want to share with you because it helps you really get a grasp of this concept, okay? So a man's older car begins to have serious trouble, so he takes it to a mechanic. After an assessment is made, he is told it will need a complete overhaul, which would tax his limited budget. Because of the expensive repairs, he determines to get rid of the car and spend his funds on a new vehicle. That seems reasonable, right? And then another man, an engineer, accidentally crushes his hand in a piece of equipment. He rushes to the hospital and has it x-rayed, finding that numerous bones are broken. Although frustrated and in pain, he willingly uses his savings to have it doctored and placed in a cast. Then gingerly nurses it back to health over the following months. This too probably also seems reasonable to you, right? So our first key main point that I want you to get is that in our culture today, marriage is treated like a disposable possession. It's discardable, right? We can just bail out if things get too tough, or we can actually go into marriage with this idea that well, I can always get out of this. It's very easy to get a divorce. And I don't think most of us go into marriage with this idea, but some of us do. And some of us also are not secure in the fact that we're getting married because we know that our spouse has an out too if they want it, that they can just choose it so easily, that they can choose to marry us and they can also choose to easily divorce us as well. Marriage is not as sacred as it once was. Marriage is not treated and valued as it once was. In our culture today, it's treated as a discardable possession. But marriage, the idea of marriage, comes from God. This was something that God had designed, where two become one. So if you're looking at marriage for, in that aspect and for what it was truly created to be, then it was inseparable. And there were only certain circumstances, very, very, very few circumstances where you could actually leave a marriage back in, in biblical times. So, those who have this view do not understand the significant bond between a husband and wife. A little bit about what I was talking about. And it says that the truth about marriage is that it's more like the second scenario than the first, but we tend to treat it like the first scenario in our culture today, in society. That has become the norm, right? So when we get married, we literally, like I said, we become one, we become a part of each other. And we should treat our marriage just like the hand, because your hand is so priceless to you. Your spouse should be priceless to you as well. It's literally, your hand is literally a part of who you are. Your spouse is literally becomes a part of who you are when you get married. So you should cherish your spouse, right? Um, we become, that's the second point I want you to get. In marriage, we become a part of one another. We literally become one. And then the third point, cherish means to become warm. Okay? So marriage is a beautiful mystery created by God, and it's joining two lives together. Okay? So cherish means to make warm. So just imagine that newborn baby, alone, who feels that way, like they don't know what's going on. They just went through this traumatic experience, right? They're cold, they're hungry, they're scared. They just want to be held. When they're put in their mother's arms, usually, and they hear their mother's voice, usually they start to soothe, they calm down, they're looking to eat. They just want that connection. They're looking for that attachment and that connection with somebody. Okay, so the new mother lovingly picks up her child and nurses, caresses, and holds the infant. Okay, that's First Thessalonians 2:7. Her careful attention and tender affection warms her baby both physically and emotionally. This is the biblical picture of how a husband and wife are to cherish one another. So it is our responsibility above every other person on the face of this earth to step in and tenderly touch, caress, and warm the life and heart of our spouse. Okay? So it is our responsibility. When we got married, we signed up to be that person for our spouse. Okay? So that's the next point. It is our responsibility to cherish our spouse, to regard them higher and above any other person, to offer a tender touch, caress, and to warm the life and heart of our spouses. Okay? So then the next point that I want you to get for today is nourish the heart and life of your spouse with the warmth of your affection. Okay? When we're showing love to our spouse, we are actually practicing and showing love to ourselves as well, because remember, we become one when we get married. So when we mistreat our mate, we're also mistreating ourselves. Think about it. Your lives are now interwoven together. You literally become one, right? Your spouse cannot experience joy or pain, blessing or curse, without it also affecting you. And that's absolutely true, right? So when you attack your mate, it's like attacking your own body. All right? You literally become one. You share in your pain, you share in your sorrow, you share in your joy, you share in your happiness with your spouse. So it's time to allow love to change how we think about our spouses. It's time to treasure every part of our spouse as a priceless gift. That's the next point, okay? And then the point after that is, if our spouses are hurting, we should think of ourselves as an instrument to bring warmth and healing to their life. Wow, for some people, you're like, this is a big responsibility, right? But if we're learning how to love well, if we're cherishing, if we're practicing patience, and if we're doing the things that we have learned, if we're allowing love to bloom, if we're spending more time in that appreciation room instead of the depreciation room, then this is the next step. We're learning to be warm towards our spouse. We're learning to care for them, to cherish them, right? So just as you guard the safety and well-being of your own body, you should treasure every part of your spouse as a priceless gift, and you should guard them and protect them as much as you can as well. And a wife should remember that when she loves her husband, she is also giving love and honor to her spouse. And when a husband looks into the eyes of his wife, he should remember that he who loves his wife loves himself, okay? So when you look at your mate, you're looking at a part of you. So treat your spouse well. Speak highly of them. Nourish and cherish the love of your life, okay? So when the next 2 points are 3 points actually that I want you to get today is the key points. I think these are important, and I think it's important to review them, because if you don't get anything else, there was a little bit more that I had read from the book that I write down, but if you don't get anything else, and I want you to take these points that we have written down on the board with you, and it's not 2 or 3. There's deep concepts that go along with each thing, and I want you to understand them. So I just want to give you, this is what love is today, is that it cherishes. So I want you to get these points, okay? So it's really important that if you don't get anything else, that you get the points, that you're writing them down, that you're paying attention to, or following along, maybe underlining in your books, and following along. So when we cherish and love our spouses well, we're not only bringing love and honor to them, we're also bringing that to ourselves, right? So treat your spouse well, speak highly of them. That is the next point. We don't want to speak badly or ill about our spouses to anybody, not even to vent, okay? I know that it's a hard concept, because sometimes we do need to talk to people. We do need to, venting and gossip, there's a fine line, right? Where you're like, hey, I need some advice, I need some direction. And then venting can just be like an explosion that, okay, you need to work through. And a lot of people say that. And then gossiping about our spouse is talking about them, saying bad things about them. They don't have, they're not there to defend themselves. We shouldn't put them in situations to have to defend themselves. So this is the thing. We can go to friends, we can go to counsel, but you have to choose wisely who you're going to talk to about something, especially within your marriage. And you go to them to get wise advice. If you need help with something, maybe the venting should be something that you write down, that you can keep private to yourself, that you can just get out there, and then take that to the wise person that you would like some advice from, that you trust, that's going to give you a wise answer, and actually help your marriage in this situation, and not bash it, or, because that's what happens with gossip, is that, one person can say something, and then another person, it's like it feeds off of each other, right? And that's not helping. Or venting even too, that's not helping anybody. That's not helping the situation. It's not helping you. If you think about it, when you vent, yeah, there's somewhat of a release, but there's also, like, if I'm venting about something, I'm like literally feeling those emotions all over again. I'm getting angry all over again. If I was angry, right? If I'm like fired up about something, I'm getting fired up about something all over again. I'm literally experiencing those emotions all over again. It's not helping my situation. If anything, well, so then let's say I'm venting about my spouse, and then they come in the room, right? Then he comes in the room a few minutes later. Well, now I'm annoyed with him all over again, or mad at him all over again, because I'm in this mindset of experiencing these heavy, deep emotions, because I'm just venting and gossiping about them. I'm looking at them the wrong way. I'm operating from the depreciation room and not the appreciation room. So it's okay to get advice. It's okay to seek wise counsel. That's wise. But I think we should save the venting. I think it would serve our marriage if we saved the venting for ourselves, for a piece of paper, for a journal. You could even, if you don't like to do that, you don't like to write, it's just not your thing, record it. You could just record yourself, and then, privately listen to it over if you need to reflect, and then say, like, where are these feelings coming from? Why am I feeling this way? How can I seek help with this situation? Wise help, wise counsel, where somebody is going to speak the truth to me back in love. And you, when you're seeking that wise counsel, you are seeking the truth, or you are speaking the truth in love. Okay, so there's a difference. We can still speak truth, but remember, we want to learn to speak the truth in love. Okay, we don't want to be bashing our spouses to people. We don't want to be venting to people about all the wrong things that our spouse does, because that's just going to make us feel all of those things. We want to focus more on the positives than the negatives, right? We burnt that list, remember? We want to lay those things down and focus on being more in the appreciation room. All right, so nourish and cherish the love of your life, okay? This is the person you decided to spend your life with. Maybe life has happened, so many things have happened in your life where you're just like, hey, like, we have a bunch of kids, all of this stuff has happened, there's literally no passion in my marriage anymore, maybe they're just not nice to you anymore. We have to focus and remember. I just want you to remember those things that you loved about your spouse when you got married, the reasons why you married them. Life does happen to people, and that's why people say marriages work. It is true, marriages work. We have to put time and effort into it. So if there's no passion, if you're just in this rut, or if you're just not kind to each other anymore and your tones change, again, I've said this before and I'm going to say it again, and I'm going to continue to say it, and I will say it all throughout Wallace Family Ministry. We can only change ourselves, okay? That's the only thing that we have control over. We can't even control our own children to a certain extent, because they're still going, everybody has free will. So they're going to still choose to do what they want to do. I can tell you that as a teenager, let me give you an example of that. Of course, my mother put boundaries in place. There were rules, there were things that we were supposed to do. Well, my mom went to work. So when she wasn't there after school, or she wasn't there, during the summer when she was working, we still did what we wanted to do, okay? There was a big part of that where we still had that free will to make that choice, because we were not being supervised in that sense where she could say, and really have control over what we were doing or not doing. And her hands were tied, right? As parents, we want to think that we can force this control over our kids, but our children have free will. So do our spouses. So do we. So we can only change ourselves. That's where it has to start. It has to start with us, all right? So how our dare today is, how can you warm the heart of your spouse today? All right, look for the opportunities to bring warmth to the coldness in his or her life. If possible, give them an unexpected, tender touch. Okay, choose a gesture that says, I cherish you, and do it with sincerity. All right, so I love you guys. I thank you for tuning in. Make sure you cherish your spouses well today, and go along with the dare. If these dares ever seem foreign to you, and you're just like, this is uncomfortable, just give it a chance. When change starts to happen, it's uncomfortable. I never even put change and comfortability in the same as, or growth and comfortability in the same sentence. I feel like they're oil and water. Comfortability and growth don't even belong together, because when we're growing, there are growing pains, just like we physically experience growing pains. We need to do something different, and sometimes it's uncomfortable, okay? When we're making those choices to do something different, it's not going to be this comfortable, familiar thing. Of course, it's going to take time to get used to. It's going to take time to perfect. It's going to take time to to wrap our brains around the fact that we're even making these dares happen in the first place if it's uncomfortable for you. And you might put up this, the brakes for a minute and say, I'm not sure I want to do that, but give it a chance. Make sure you're doing the dares. I can't speak today. And you will see the fruit. So I love you guys. I hope you have a great day. We will see you tomorrow for day 12 of the Love Dare. Take care and God bless.